Hi everyone and welcome back. In today's lesson, we are going to solve for x in this quadratic equation by making use of another method called completing the square. Now, completing the square has very important rules for us to remember, and I will point them out as we go along. So, here we go. Here is a quadratic equation and it's x squared minus 4x plus 2 equals 0. But because we are going to solve it by completing the square, there is something we have to remember. We always have to make sure that the coefficient of the x squared is a 1. So that means if we go to this x squared, this term, we have to make sure that this value in front of it, its coefficient, is a positive 1. Okay, now we are very lucky in this sum because this is actually already a positive 1. So I will show you later in the lesson what we do if this is not a positive 1. Okay, so now the second thing that we need to remember, because we are using completing of the square, we're not going to keep all our terms on the one side. We're actually going to take this constant term and we're going to move it to the other side, which is contradictory against what we usually do with quadratic equations. So now we move the constant, so we have x squared minus 4x is equal to minus 2. Okay, then we rewrite this exactly again. So x squared minus 4x, but this time I'm going to add a certain term here on the left side, and then I'm going to write equal minus 2, and I'm going to add the same term that I added on the left side also to the right side. Now, why do we add this term and where do we get it from? Well, we are going to add a term that makes this left side into a complete square. Now, if you remember, a complete square gives us exactly the same two answers when we factorize them. Okay, so where do we get this term from? And here's another important thing for you to remember. And this is, we are going to make use of b divided by 2 in brackets squared. So you have to memorize this. Now, what is this b? Well, it's the coefficient in front of the x. So it's a minus 4. So we're going to take this minus 4, put it in b's place, and we have minus 4 divided by 2 in brackets squared. Now, this is the term that we're going to add both on the left side and on the right side. Now, we don't actually have to do this sum inside the brackets right now. Okay, so we just simply take this bracket and we add it to the left side, and we take this bracket and we add it to the right side. Okay, so the left side and the right side. Now, this gives us a complete square. So we're going to have the same two brackets once we factorize this side. Now, we don't have to factorize. I'll quickly show you where we get this bracket from. So we open up a bracket, then we take one of these x's and we put it in the bracket, okay? And then the next term, we derive it from what is written inside this bracket. So we are not going to square it. We're just simply going to say minus 4 divided by 2 is a minus 2. And we put that minus 2 inside the bracket. We close the bracket and we square it. Then we do this on our calculator, and that gives us an answer of 2. Okay, so now I have x minus 2 in brackets squared is equal to 2. Now we simply square root this left side and square root the right side, and we end up with x minus 2 is equal to plus minus the square root of 2. Then we're going to move this constant to the other side, and we have x is equal to plus minus square root 2 plus 2, and that gives us our two x values, which is x is equal to 3,41 or 0,59. And that is it. So let's go and look at another example. Now, in this example, they give us a quadratic equation and we want to solve it by completing the square. The difference with this example is, however, that we always have to make sure that the coefficient in front of the x squared is a positive 1. This is not a positive 1. This is a 2. So what are we going to do? Well, the second thing that we also have to remember is that we want our constant on the other side. Well, it's already on the other side, so I don't need to worry about that. So our only problem is we have to get rid of this 2. Now, how can we do that? Well, this is an equation, so we're going to divide with a 2 all the way through. So that leaves us with x squared minus, and now 3 divided by 2 will be 3 over 2x equals, and we're going to write 7 over 2. Okay, so now I divide it with a 2 all the way through, and this coefficient is now a positive 1. Okay, excellent. Now we rewrite this one more time. X squared minus 3 over 2x, and we're going to add a certain term on the left side, and on the right side we have 7 over 2, and we're going to add the same term here on the right side. So where do we get this term from? Well, b over 2 in brackets squared. You have to memorize this. Now what is b? Well, b is the coefficient in front of x, which is a minus 3 over 2. So that means I'm going to have minus 3 over 2 in b's place divided by 2 in brackets squared. Now we can simplify the sum inside the bracket, and we are going to be left with minus 3 over 4 in brackets squared. Now I can quickly show you on the calculator how to do this part. So what we do is we are going to take minus 3 over 2 divided by 2. So we press the fraction button, and then we press the fraction button again so that we can fill in minus 3 over 2 here in the numerator. So we say minus 3 over 2, and then we're going to divide with a 2 again, and we press equal. And this minus 3/4 is what remains in the brackets. And see, we have minus 3 over 4 in brackets squared. Okay, wonderful. So now, if we add that term here on the left side, we also take this term and we put it on the right side. Now this is a complete square, and it's going to give us exactly the same two bracket answers. So we open up a bracket, we take one of the x's, we put it in, and where do we get this term from? Well, it's the sum inside the brackets. Well, it is minus 3 over 4, so I'm just going to put in this bracket minus 3 over 4, close the bracket and square it. And then we do this part on the right side on our calculator, and that is equal to 65 over 16. Now I square root this side and I square root the other side, and I end up with x minus 3 over 4 is equal to plus minus the square root of 65 over 16. Then we take this term to the other side, and we have x is equal to plus minus the square root 65 over 16 plus 3/4. Okay, and then if you type this into your calculator, you will see your calculator simplifies it already, and we will have x is equal to 3 plus minus the square root 65 over 4. And there we go, and that is all there is to it. So there's a couple of things for you to remember, so work through this lesson and then try the examples. See you again. Bye.